Call this meeting to order. We'll start with a prayer and a pledge. Prayer first, yes. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this gathering. Thank you for all those who have come to present and to be guest speakers. Help us do the will of the citizens and your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Bronner.
Here.
Mr. Bishop.
Here.
Mr. Boehner.
Here.
Mr. Tallman.
Here.
Mrs. Kroger. Here. Mrs. Edichico. Here.
7 present. That's everybody. We have quorum for business and for legislation. Approval of minutes. I'll seek a motion for that. But let me caution you, I don't know if anybody else saw this. The report by the treasurer was kind of doubled over.
No, I fixed it.
Did you fix it? Well, when it got sent back to me, it was still doubled over.
It's just your computer.
No, it could just be
I got it fine.
Microsoft. Was it okay? Was it okay for everybody? All right. All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve the amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 2nd minutes.
Second.
Oh, that was close. I heard Mrs. Kroger. So motion by Mr. Bronner, a second by Mrs. Kroger to approve the meeting minutes from August 2nd. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Audience seeking participation. Anybody in the audience who's not a presenter? We still have 45 chairs in this room. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in here who aren't behind the desk. Come on, TV land, come join us. All right, no one for audience participation, reading of communications.
I have one. Received this from President of Council Dwight Dom. The reason East Galbraith Road needs stop signs is not for speed control, but for crash prevention and damage reduction. In the late 1990s, there were 2 rear-ended crashes, one at 2349 and one at 2357 East Galbraith. One of them happened when the homeowner was backing out of the driveway, and the other happened when the homeowner was turning into the driveway. I don't recall which was which, but you can ask Lieutenant Latire, since his wife was the one involved at 2357. Around 2005, my pickup truck was rear-ended while I was still traveling uphill by a speeder in a beater vehicle. Since damage to the truck was not noticeable and the damage to the beater was significant, I asked the individual whether he wanted to file a police report. He declined, of course, and the crash went unreported. Even so, that non-driver had to slam onto his brakes in order to avoid a hospital visit. In 2019, while I was sitting in my work truck, which was parked in my driveway, a distracted driver was going so fast up the hill that when she finally saw my neighbor's car parked in front of my house, she decided she should try to pass it on the right, which would be in my front lawn. She reacted way too slowly and ended up plowing into the back of that car, pushing it up the hill far enough to partially block my driveway while totally destroying the back end of that car. Her car then went over the 5-inch block, not sloped curb, went across my lawn and crashed into my work truck, shoving it off the edge of the driveway. Only when she backed up to try to drive away did her vehicle stall after striking the neighbor's car on the right side and activating the crash alarm system on her car. An eyewitness estimated her pre-crash speed to be at least 50 miles per hour, yet the police report indicates a vehicle speed of 25 miles per hour. In each of these 4 instances, a stop sign at Galbraith and Knollcrest would have prevented the offending vehicles from having so much speed that reaction time is near 0, likely preventing the first 3 altogether and only destroying 2 cars instead of 3 in the last instance. In 2020, as I was pulling out of my driveway, my car was struck by a vehicle coming down the hill at 50 miles per hour. It was possible to see downhill traffic from the bottom of the driveway, but impossible to see downhill traffic from the top of the driveway due to other vehicles being parked on the street and up the hill. In this instance, a stop sign at Galbraith and Marycrest would have prevented that vehicle from getting to 50 miles per hour at that point along Galbraith, and that would have provided the gap in traffic that I needed in order not to have a wreck. These real-world events have demonstrated that it is unsafe for residents along Galbraith to, number 1, back out of their driveways, number 2, pull into their driveways, number 3, pull out of their driveways, and number 4, sit in their parked vehicles in their driveways. This is not to mention the 3 times my mailbox has been run over or into, or the time that the city snowplow was going so fast up the hill that the mass of snow being ejected from the plow broke the mounting arm off the mailbox post. I have received complaints from the residents on Ridge Point and Harvest Lane that it is difficult to safely enter Galbraith Road, especially during peak driving hours. Stop signs downhill at Ridge Point and uphill at Harvest would greatly improve safe access to these residents. Since the speed sign was parked in front of my house earlier this year, I know the difference between uphill and downhill speeds, and that difference was shown in the data I presented to council. The recent report from the police chief only shows incoming vehicle speed measurements, but I know the day the police turned the sign around, so I am able to separate uphill from downhill speeds. The speed data by itself shows the need for some kind of additional traffic regulation. History proves that East Galbraith Road needs stop signs.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we refer this matter to the Safety Committee and also a copy of that report sent to the police chief.
I have a motion by Mr. Boehner to forward this to the Safety Committee. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Powell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. I think that was already on your list. Okay. And the police chief has a copy. I copied him on the email. Would also entertain a motion to receive and file the communication.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the communication.
Second it.
Motion by Mrs. Edechico, second by Mr. Tomlin, to receive and file the communication. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Voice vote carry. We have guest speakers, 2 of them in order. Does anyone want to introduce Dr. Schneider? Nope. Okay, Dr. Schneider, you're up. Just grab that microphone. You may have to munch on it a little bit to be heard.
Not a doctor.
It says doctor.
Oh, does it?
It does say doctor.
No,
Got a
just
promotion.
just a Mr. Schneider.
You'll take the raise that comes with the degree though, right?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't complain about that.
I don't want the degree of harassment that comes with a degree.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Chris Schneider, for the record. I am the Planning Services Administrator for Hamilton County in the Community Planning Department. I've been in that role about 8 months or so. Steve Johns was the previous person in that role who's been promoted to the Assistant Director. So I have come in kind of on the tail end of this project. It's been ongoing for several years now. Mr. Dean Niemeyer, who is a native of the city of Reading, spent a lot of his time on this plan, and so he retired from the Hamilton County about 2 weeks ago. So he almost made it to the finish line with this, but not quite there. So that's a little bit about me. Try to keep this brief. The Reading Road study. I'm going to give a little background on its location first. You can see in the green outline, that's the location of the Reading Road study area, which runs from Summit Avenue to the south, and along Reading Road to the north, Ronald Reagan Cross County Highway. And what makes this area unique is that it's where 3 different jurisdictions all converge in one location. So you have the city of Cincinnati to the south, Sycamore Township to the northwest, and then Reading, kind of in the middle of that corridor. Additionally, Amberley Village, which is not in the study area is adjacent to the study area to the east, and one of its prime industrial locations, I believe is Pepsi, is accessed from Reading Road and Sunnybrook. So they were a part of this as well. And so as I was stating, there were 3 jurisdictions within the study area, as well as Amberley Village, which is adjacent to the site. The committee that was formed was made up of representatives from each of these jurisdictions, the port, as well as representatives from community planning in Hamilton County. Historically, this portion, because it is where 3 jurisdictions kind of come together, had a tendency to maybe get lost in the shuffle sometimes. And so the county kind of came together with the other jurisdictions to help create a plan, as you'll see, for this corridor area. Some of the work that was done to kind of get to the recommendations and where we are today, we did an analysis of the existing conditions on the site, which includes access, how cars travel through the area, what are the land uses, what businesses are there, how are the curb cuts and access into the different sites, how are they working, as well as an analysis of the multiple existing studies already on the book. There are a handful or more over the years that have been created that didn't encompass the entire study area, but smaller portions. And so an analysis of what those existing studies provided was done. Also included public input, a charrette, which is kind of like a public meeting to get input from the citizens of the area, as well as a market study from Hamilton County Development Corp., now Alloy. And so there have been some changes in this corridor in the last 5 or 6 years or so. Kind of try to go through chronologically a little bit. In 2016, the Port Authority purchased the Gibson Card site, and then Amberley Village rezoned that from residential to industrial to help promote some development there. Sycamore Township purchased the Barrow site, which is outlined in yellow there. And then more recently, this year, the port has purchased the Drake Motel and the Carousel Inn sites. And so going back to 2016, there was some momentum with the purchase of these sites by the port and Sycamore Township and others. And so this study was initiated. The committee was convened to help keep that momentum moving forward and to help analyze some short and long, medium-term actions in the corridor area. So what are the recommendations from this plan? The first recommendation is to continue working with the Ohio Department of Transportation to help determine the appropriate improvements to Reading Road. Those include turn lanes, streetscape improvements, and other improvements to help accommodate or promote the development of this area, to help catalyze the development of the corridor moving forward. We'll see a map in just a second, a shift of retail uses, a shift from retail uses to a blend of commercial and light industrial uses. And then the entire process has been supported and actively participated from each of the jurisdictions. So continued support from those jurisdictions. And then finally, an image of, you see on the left, that's the existing land use map for this corridor. And you can see it's predominantly commercial along Reading Road frontages with a little industrial to the east behind Reading Road. That's the way it is today. The land use, the recommended land use, or the proposed land use as part of this plan, as I said, was is proposing a shift from the predominant commercial retail nature to a more commercial light industrial blend, which is consistent with some of the uses already in Amberley Village in that area and what the committee has recommended. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions from anyone.
Let's start with anybody on council. Any council member have a question? Go ahead, Mr. Boehner.
I know in reading the report that an email to us.
Could, Mr. Boehner, here, take this.
You want to come on back up to the seats?
Yeah.
It talked about the possibility of having 5 lanes. Would that fifth lane would be the turn lane in the middle of the street?
Yes, I believe that's correct. I think there still needs to be some work done with Ohio Department of Transportation to
Yeah, I think 'cause
confirm that.
the right-of-way is pretty tight in some spots through there.
Sure, it is, and that's why that continued working with ODOT to work through those issues.
All right, thank you.
So essentially where we are right now is simply addressing the street itself with hopes that, you know, wider lanes and better traffic flow would appeal to light industry.
I believe that's one of the components, yes. I think a wider, if it's, the proposed light industrial has, you know, probably trucks and those kinds of things, that where a wider road would help accommodate those uses, yes.
Is it a Chico, you had one?
That was pretty much my question, just really what the next steps are, where we're going from here.
Yeah, so I think the next steps would be adoption or approval from this board, from the council. I know the city of Cincinnati, Amberley Village, and Sycamore are all going through a similar process right now to get to that point. Once it is, then this document can be used to help, you know, developers or anyone coming into the corridor, like, hey, look, we have a plan in place to help redevelop this area. Here it is, and here's how we're trying to move forward with that.
Would you send that to us I thought we had already signed an agreement to
Oh.
cooperate and see this through. But if council needs to do more, I'm sure they'd love to read what they're
Yes.
agreeing to.
Absolutely. I was working with Linda Fitzgerald. I don't think she's here tonight.
Linda's not feeling well, and
Oh,
before the meeting,
absolutely.
she sent me that the council needed to approve something. I said I hadn't seen anything, and
Okay,
so if you'll send it to us, we'll get it to them.
absolutely. I'll coordinate with Linda then to make
Awesome.
sure you get that. I wasn't quite sure if the approval was happening tonight or if it was just an information session. I was hoping she could provide some light on that, but.
Mr. Bronner?
Is it council that needs to approve something, or is it our zoning board? I think there's some zoning changes that they were talked about doing on that corridor.
There could potentially be some zoning changes. I think at this point, it's not that. At this point, it's just we're looking at the proposed land use for the area. If it is approved and moved forward by council, then those zoning changes would have to take place at a future date when the city is, or the zoning board or whoever is ready for those to happen.
I think it goes without saying that everybody here would be in favor of that stretch of road being, you know, made more usable and
Sure.
certainly more attractive, you know, and.
Absolutely.
It's certainly underutilized at this
Without a
time,
doubt.
so.
And the highway access, I mean, it should be desirable to, you know, many different
What
developers.
would also be helpful is to know where Sycamore Township and the city of Cincinnati are with respect to this plan.
Yes, so I believe Sycamore Township has already kind of had this meeting,
Okay.
waiting for their final approvals. And I know the city of Cincinnati, they have to deal with the neighborhoods there. And so Roselawn specifically is going through their neighborhood process of, you know, how do they adopt that as a neighborhood? And then once that's gone, then it has to go to their city council, et cetera. So their process is a little more lengthy than maybe Reading or Sycamore.
Right, but
So
what
is
that,
this-
what that tells me is we're really not on the clock right now, and we don't have to approve this by the end of the month or anything
No,
like
I don't
that.
think there's a specific timeline from that
Yeah,
perspective.
okay.
Yep.
So is this effectively like a miniature master plan, what we're approving, or?
Yeah, just I would call it maybe a small area study, a study of this section of Reading Road and improvements and changes and updates to help redevelop that area.
So, MOU on cooperation between the jurisdictions would be my guess.
Yeah, I think there's already been brief discussion on matching zoning between each of the, so we just got to get more of an update on where everybody stands. Like you said, it's,
Bo, can I ask you a question about this? Can we make sure that this doesn't affect our relationship with Sycamore Township and the JED with what they want to do there?
okay, we're always in discussions with Sycamore Township, so I think
Okay,
we're good
all right.
there. So, but I'll make sure we stay that way. It's-
If I read the map correctly, it looks to me like there's a neighborhood up in that corner.
There is.
If I lived there, I'd probably be a little unhappy about this idea.
Yeah, to the north,
Northwest, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's a,
It's the Chaucer
Townhome.
Drive.
Chaucer Drive.
yeah.
At one time, we tried to get them to come to Reading, and I got dragged to a meeting by Frank Carnevale, and it didn't go over well. We were lucky to get out of there without getting shot, stabbed, and everything else, but at that time, the people didn't want any part of coming to Reading. But since the closure of the Drake Motel and all the other stuff went on there, they may change their mind. Because we're the ones really patrolling down there now, not so much Sycamore Township. It's too far away for them to come down there all the time.
Well, and that Chaucer Lane that goes through that neighborhood is perfect access for the land that Sycamore Township owns behind there that is vacant and developable, so.
Sure, I know specifics as to access to the Barrow site and other sites along the corridor. I mean, those needed to be vetted out and studied completely through a development process specific to that site. So if someone were to purchase it and try to build something there, then that's the process they would have to go through to make sure access is adequate and meets the needs of the city.
Can they build on that site back there, or is that,
I do not know the history
Okay.
behind that site.
I don't either. I don't know what happened, why that,
The topo doesn't look too friendly to it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason they call it a Barrow site is because that's when they were building ramps and interstates, that's where they borrowed dirt from
Probably.
and soil, so I couldn't speak
That's where all
to.
those lakes come from, up along I-71.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
back
don't
in
know
the
if Chris
day-
has the history here, but I think it's been going on for what, 3, 4, 5 years?
Correct.
Probably.
Correct.
at
It's been
least,
going
so.
on for a while, and part of that's because there's 3 different jurisdictions, and it just complicates the process, that's all.
Back in the day, I had heard, and this goes back probably 20 years, but rumblings of Bear Creek Capital and maybe like a Lowe's there, but that was many, many moons ago.
Home Depot, Walmart, yeah, probably about
Yeah,
04,
that was a
05.
long time ago, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's when they started.
and it barely, I mean, they had agreements with the schools, and so it just,
Upside down now.
Yeah, and we all know what happened to Bear Creek, so.
Okay?
Any other questions? Anybody in the audience want to ask a question about this since you're here? No hands. Oh, come on, I gotta put on a clown nose and tap shoes to get somebody to show up. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you, council, for your time.
Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for your
Yep.
time.
All right, up next, we have another one. Mr. Powell, would you like to introduce him?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jerry Newfarmer of Management Partners. I had shared with you guys yesterday a little YouTube video of a service they offer called an organizational review. I think something like that might be beneficial for us here as we look where to possibly allocate funds in the future to, better serve the public. So, go ahead, Mr. Newfarmer.
Thank you, Dave, and members of council. It's nice to be here this evening. Dave asked me to come and just chat with you for a few minutes about the kind of work that we do and how we might be helpful. We are Management Partners. We're a management consulting firm that specializes in local government. We're headquartered in Cincinnati and have been for 28 years. So we know Hamilton County well and have done work in many of the jurisdictions within the county. We also do work across the country. So as a company, we've got about 100 people. And so we have some capacity, and we have been involved in just about every imaginable local government situations that there is. Our mission is to help local government leaders. What we're good at is helping local government leaders figure out how to make their organization more successful, or to solve problems, or to work better. Dave had reached out to me last fall and asked if I'd be willing to come and answer questions and talk about what we do and that sort of thing. And so here I am. I'm happy to keep that commitment and be here this evening. It's this is democracy in action, and it's good to be here. I was thinking during the last presentation that another local government that we've been working with actively for about 25 years is the little city of Montgomery, about the same size as Reading. they were interested years and years ago in doing a strategic plan for their city, looking ahead 5 years to say, well, what should be the priorities? Where should we make investments? Where are our problems, and how can we get better? So they developed a 5-year plan that we facilitated, working with the city council made the decision, but they had the department heads and so forth involved in a process that we facilitated. So we wrote up the plan, and then we helped the managers turn that into actionable things so they could actually get it done. And then 5 years later, they basically had completed what was in their plan. Now, some of the goals that get set are continuing kinds of things that you're working on all the time. You know, improving public safety. Well, I mean, that's something we live with, and in 20 years, you're going to be doing that still. Providing services on a cost-effective, efficient basis is something you're doing now and something you're going to be doing in 20 years. But ways that you can improve in the meantime are the kinds of things that local government leaders are and ought to be concerned about. So doing a strategic planning like that is a vehicle to that end. We've worked with Montgomery about every 5 years we do a strategic plan with them, and then at the end of 5 years, they're one of my favorite clients because they actually do stuff that they plan to do, and in so many cases people do plans and put them on the shelves. Well, I'll tell you what, our folks at Management Partners all come out of local government, and we're action oriented, and we're not interested in doing a nice plan that's going to sit on somebody's shelf. We want to have whatever comes out of our work be useful for the client and be implementable. So that's our bias. I call it an implementation bias, and that's what we do as a group of local government professionals. We're involved. We do everything from soup to nuts. So we help. Sometimes we help councils do strategic plans. We help the management team work together and do a management implementation plan for actions the council wants to take. We do evaluation. Sometimes you have a function that's not working well or is a problem in the community, and you need to. What you want to do is take that specific function, do a review of, and figure out how to what are the best practices in doing that type of work, whether it's fire service or police service or public works, whatever it is. Well, probably more than anyone in local government in the United States. This is blowing my own smoke, and I apologize for that. We know more about how to do that and what the best practices are, and that's the kind of thing we help with, solving problems like that and producing an actionable work program. So if anything like that is at all of interest, we're local, we're a resource, and we would be happy to help you with it. You showed them or sent them the link to that little video that we do. That's a video about organization reviews. That's our snazziest thing that we've ever done. So I hope when you get a chance, you take a look at that little cartoon video. We're not intentionally not flashy and that kind of thing, because we're practical and as I said, implementation oriented, problem solving oriented. The best practice in leadership is to have an environment in your government of continuous improvement. Human organizations are human, and because they're human, they're imperfect in how they do their work. Sometimes we get arterial sclerosis of how we do things. And so there are always, because we're human, opportunities for improvement. And the mark of a good leader is to create an environment where people are incentivized to get better, can always get better, regardless of how good you are. That's true for my company, that's true for your government, and that's true for City of Cincinnati or anybody else. So figuring out what those opportunities are and taking advantage of them is the challenge ahead. Anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions. Dave, I never promised you a fancy slideshow presentation. Could have done that, but that's not our style anyway. So
No.
I'm happy to take any questions that you've got about anything.
Just kind of, and a lot of times it comes down to cost. Can you share a rough idea of what something like that might cost, or it all kind of depends on
It depends on how much process you want. I mean, when you're talking consulting costs, you're talking hours. How much time does it take to do stuff? So there are degrees. And we, we function in small, little, tiny organizations and great big ones. We helped Clark County, Nevada, figure out what to do with their ARPA money. Well, they had $440 million of ARPA money, and they decided they wanted to do a big community engagement thing in the 5th largest county in America or something. So as a company, we facilitated doing that. That takes a lot of time. If you want to engage citizens, there are a lot of ways to do it. You can do focus groups, you can do a survey, which is pretty cheap. But the key center point of doing a strategic plan is what we would normally do is we would interview everybody in council, other significant folks in your organization or in town that you think should be interviewed. Now that takes time, doing interviews, so there's a cost. Then we would develop from that a working document, set the table kind of thing. Facilitate like a half-day session of the council and staff to say, okay, what are the priorities and what do we do for each of those? What do we want to do to improve public safety? What do we want to do to improve the physical infrastructure of the city, or whatever it is? And then we write it up, and there you've got your strategic plan. So how much engagement you do about that, how much outreach. You want to have a whole bunch of community meetings and stuff. That takes time and effort. So we shape that depending on what the interest of the leaders is and how you want to do it.
I noticed you listed on your website Deer Park as a client. What services did you provide for Deer Park?
Actually, Silverton's more of a client than Deer Park, but.
Were they? Okay.
That's an interesting one. And some of you may have been I don't know if you were on the council in whenever it was, 2007. We had a government efficiency and cooperation project or something in Hamilton County. We had a steering committee, and the idea was we were going into the Great Recession. So the idea was, how can all of the jurisdictions and local government in Hamilton County figure out ways to save money? That was kind of the objective. And one of the interesting things is in the area of fire service, because fire service, if you look at the county as a whole, we've got so many separate fire departments. At the time, there were like 100 separate fire departments in Hamilton County. Well, that's a lot, and in the aggregate, it's very costly. Now, people take a lot of pride in their fire service, and well, they should, particularly since most fire service is EMS as well, which is close to home if you're getting along in years like I am, or you may have a concern about the health and responsiveness of your emergency services. Deer Park, Silverton was a good case in point of two cities that got together to merge. They each needed a new fire station, and there was a lot of back and forth about, do we want to put it together so we can do one that serves us both? And somehow, we were not involved in it, but somehow they got a thing on the ballot so folks could vote whether they wanted to do it or not. And it passed, not by a lot, but it passed. And now you go into Deer Park and Silverton today and ask them about their fire service, and they'll tell you it's the best in the county, because they got a nice fire station that serves both communities, equal distance. I mean, they're centrally located. Well, that's the kind of thing you can do. I'm not advocating for that in any particular case, but that's the kind of thing you can do working with another city that's next door or something. There are other things that can be done, but that's one example.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
I've got a little handout that I will leave with the clerk, if you like, that just kind of summarizes some of the stuff that's on our website that we do, and if at some point it can be of value or we can be helpful, we'd like to do that. So.
Very good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Executive session, none scheduled. Any reason for one? Seeing none. Legislative session, reading of resolutions. We have no resolutions that I know of. Anybody got one in the pocket? Nope. Okay, good. Moving on. Reading of ordinances.
An ordinance authorizing the auditor to transfer $40,000 from the sewer service fee fund to the capital improvement fund, and authorizing the safety service director to purchase a leaf vacuum and leaf box for an amount not to exceed $40,000 from the capital fund, and declaring an emergency.
This is a refurbished leaf machine that we need. doesn't have to be bid out, but it's a different one than that we were talking about before, because the other municipality never turned it in, so they went and got someone else to donate theirs back to the company, and it's a good deal for us all the way around. And it's obviously needed by the service department.
I'll make a motion to suspend the second and third readings.
So,
Second.
okay, wait, I heard it over here. You almost got it. All right, motion by Mr. Bronner, second by Mr. Boehner to suspend the rules requiring a second and third reading. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Do we know what the life expectancy of it is, being it's a used piece of equipment?
The ones we have now are over 30 years old.
How old is this unit and
It's
versus?
going to be completely refurbished, so it
So
won't
it's going to
be,
be essentially like new then?
it'll be very similar to being a new, yes.
Okay,
A new one would cost us about 85,000 or so.
okay.
Motion to adopt?
We have a motion to adopt by Mrs. Edichico.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kroger. Very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
7 yes, ordinance carries. Ordinance number, please.
2022-23.
We should give bonuses for these first and seconds. We might have fights in here.
That would probably be under the efficiency meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Next one, please.
An ordinance awarding a contract to J.K. Meir Corporation for the East North Street Improvements Project for an amount not to exceed $200,000 and declaring an emergency.
Discussion.
A discussion by Mr. Powell.
Do you know, Bo, are we planning on completing this yet this fall? Or is this going to be for the following year?
No, I'm sorry. Complete part of,
Yeah, this North Street, is this
Yes.
for this fall?
I believe so.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That was gonna be my question, is that why we're declaring an emergency because it's, to get the money? So
Yeah,
that
we'd
the
like to
project
move
can get
forward.
started?
Absolutely. We don't get that money until the 1st of July, and
Okay.
so anyway, yes, we're wanting to move forward.
So the project is to replace the curbs and then resurface?
Some of the
I
curbs.
think it's spot curbs.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to be a lot more expensive, and the curbs were in good shape, so JMA didn't recommend doing it.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to suspend the second and third reading?
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Edichico, a second by Mr. Boehner to suspend the rules requiring a second and third reading. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger? Yes. Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
A motion to adopt by Mr. Boehner,
Second.
second by Mr. Bronner. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Boehner?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger? Yes. Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
7 yes, ordinance carries. Ordinance number.
2022-24.
Very good. Any others hidden in somebody's briefcase pocket? Nope, okay. Moving on to miscellaneous business.
A few things if you want.
Go ahead.
You know, number one, our Reading schools open tomorrow morning. And then I think MND next Monday, St. Peter and Paul Academy next Wednesday, Cincinnati Classical Academy the week after that. But, you know, we beg people to slow down, be patient. You know, we find that the first 2 weeks of school, you know, are always confusing, new drivers, new parents. And, you know, a lot of people want to complain. It's just something we have to work through each and every year. So, you know, if you can avoid the school areas, you know, in the morning, it'd be very, very helpful. And if you're going to be in the thick of it, you know, it usually requires patience and common courtesy and people slowing down. You know, we had some conversations here in the last couple of days. We are going to beef up our patrols around our school areas. You know, we always keep a close eye But, we wanted to get that out there. There was always the discussion, it seems, when somebody says, please slow down, it might go in one ear and out the other. When you say police might be out writing tickets, it might be something you might say to your neighbor or to your children or to your friends. It seems to get a little bit more attention. Again, we've never been based on revenue, or never have I, as our mayor, pushed our police department to write tickets for revenue. But on the other hand, safety is a huge issue, and school's about us, and we need to keep an eye out for the young students getting to and from school, and for pedestrians, period. List of other things, there's a lot coming up here in our community. Taste of Reading will be on August 27th. The Ladies Auxiliary from the American Legion puts that on. They help pay for fireworks each year. A wonderful, hard grouping work of people. So, there'll be great food, drinks, entertainment, crafts. Reading Athletic Boosters there selling, gear for people who need Reading Blue Devil attire. So I'll be helping with that one. The antique car show for the first time on September 11th this year will be up in the school parking lot. We're no longer permitted to use what the Port Authority has bought. It used to be Dow Chemical. We had some confusion here. There was going to be a alumni soccer match that I found out last week on Roman Haas property, the old Dow property, and they no longer allow us to use it. So anyway, I called Reading High School's athletic director. Some people weren't happy about it, but literally they would have been trespassing, and we don't carry liability insurance anymore, and we again have lost those fields, and it's one of the reasons why we're pushing forward with potentially turfing, the Veterans Memorial Stadium. And Pat and I met with a representative from Moats last week. We'll have updated prices here soon. But again, we've lost so many fields that, again, I've said it many times, I'm not the biggest turf fan. That being said, the football field as it stands right now, we've been told to keep it to 40, 50 games. When I became mayor, there was 120 games up every year, and a lot of people complained about the condition of it. With a turf field, we could use it year-round, and so again, I think it's something we should seriously consider. Now, that being said, we've had some people point out some things at our pool, and within the next 2 to 4, 5 years at the most, we're probably going to need an entire new pool at a cost of, and the last time we got an estimate on that was $2 million a year ago. So I imagine it's going to be quite expensive coming up. The interesting thing with Mr. Newfarmer here, he was here at City Hall probably 2004, 2005, 2006, and just to give you an example, when they've dealt with Montgomery, if my memory's correct, Montgomery used to keep a surplus of quite a few $1 million. And, as it got down close to that surplus, they were looking to raise revenues to maintain that surplus to do things. We here in the city of Reading for many, many years have had priority lists, for many. And the reason why a lot of communities, those plans sit on shelves is a lack of funds, to do those things. It isn't out of laziness or not being concerned, but, for us, what I've always been proud of here is, we've been financially challenged here for many, many years, and that's just the way it is. I think most of our families have lived that way. We're kind of reflective of the families here. Not a lot of money sitting around to do, a lot of wonderful things, but we concentrate our money on basic city services, and, I've always been very, very proud of that. I'm a small, limited government type of person, and we cover our basics very, very well. And so, when it comes to strategic planning, our police department, fire EMS department, public works have strategic planning like none other. So we're very good at the basics. Now, other things as time goes by, we're sitting with more money now than we've had in quite a while. But here as we sit and look at a stadium, we find out we got 2 to 4 years left of a pool. It could be $2.5, $3 million. A city hall. The list goes on. Another rec center. I mean, we were this close to having a second gym next to Havey Fieldhouse in the mid-1990s. My sister Bonnie was here. She would have said if the city would have given her that property, that gym would have been built in the mid-1990s. But Anyway, people got together and talked it out of affordability, to make a long story short. But anyway, we do that planning, and not to hamper anybody from getting Mr. Newfarmer in here, but when he left the last time, we were making substantial cuts to balance a budget. So if anybody wonders why we didn't follow through with Mr. Newfarmer 14, 15 years ago, we were fighting for our lives as far as financially goes. But anyways, other things coming up, they're on our web pages. People can call and get information here anytime. And Dwight, that's it for me.
Very good. Any questions for the mayor?
No questions for the mayor.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I have three things I want to mention. First, I want to thank Patrick Ross and the mayor for setting up a meeting with Mr. Rumpke, Dean Ferrier, another gentleman from Rumpke also. I was at that meeting on the 4th of August. We'll have more detailed information to report at the next meeting. I'm sure Mr. Ross will have a report too on it. Rumpke will be drafting a letter to send up to the residents regarding to clarify things. I think at this point in time, they understand the urgency of getting it corrected. I think that was made perfectly clear to them. We did set up a plan to make sure that if people do have missed service, what they should do is the first thing you do is call Rumpke at 513-742-2900. Tell them the name and address for them to document it. Then after doing that, please call the city and leave your name and address with any city clerk that answers the 513-733-3725. And that clerk will then email Dean directly so he can follow up on these. The idea is to create a paper trail so that we can follow it and adequately make sure that everybody gets their trash and recycling picked up. Just know that along with Mr. Ross and the mayor, I'm working with Rumpke to make sure everyone's provided the service they're paying for. Second thing I have is I'm not advocating for them, but Alta Fiber has gotten about 310 more homes on their route, all ready to be hooked up on top of the hill. Mostly Siebenthaler, Carroll, Thornridge, Trillium, Hunt Road, around that area. So if you're on those areas and you're looking for it, call them. They may have stopped by and knocked on your door. Third thing is I want to announce a meeting of the Utilities, Lands, and Buildings Committee for this Thursday at 6:30, probably held in the caucus room. We'll be discussing the video broadcast situation.
And Mark, if I could, it was a beneficial meeting with Rumpke. And, the first half of the meeting, we sat right back here and we went over our complaints with Rumpke. Continuous missed homes, not being able to make it up Harvest Lane, not making it through alleys, and we went over that, and they did promise.
Yep.
And they're dedicated to getting better. Now, that being said, the week before they came here, they got less than 10 phone calls out of over 3,400 homes. So again, and then we started going over what we can do to help Rumpke. And there are several things from Rumpke's point of view. And Mark, I again hope Patrick and Mark report on this again next week, and I hope you don't mind me going over it. But, the first thing is you have to sit things out the night before. If you sit things out the next morning, you may have missed them. And then it isn't going to get picked up, and it's not Rumpke's bad. So put it out the night before. If you can separate garbage from recycling, it helps them very much. I always thought, mine was missed 3 times in the first 2 months. I guess those green cans can blend in with the dark gray or black cans. And as a matter of fact, Patrick Ross bought a new can up at Menards that looked just like the recycling can for his garbage. So if you can separate them 6 feet, it helps to separate them. The third thing is, from a recycling point of view, is put the correct things in it. Use a Rumpke container. And if you put the wrong things in it, they're not going to pick it up. So it was another thing. So some of the things were very basic things that we can do, to help them. And then the other thing is I felt worse about, honestly, is because I think it happened at a televised meeting here. It was discussed that Rumpke steals garbage cans, and they don't. On the very rare occasions, if a Rumpke driver sees a can, that is in and of itself garbage, and it could hurt a driver or be harmful to someone, they may pick it up. Now, again, if anybody ever sees a Rumpke driver taking a can they shouldn't, by all means, call City Hall here immediately, call our police department. Rumpke will not tolerate that out of drivers. But
I
it
think
is,
that's what the lady on Harvest Lane said.
the delay on Harvest Lane, what you want on that? They're going to take pickup trucks up
No, what
Harvest.
I'm saying is that the garbage cans missing from Harvest Lane were new or nearly brand new.
There
But
was
then
one
peop-
from Keith Drive also, but she got hers resolved, I think, as of today.
Okay,
from
people
Keith
have to
Drive.
call on those. You know, it's,
And their resolution, if I remember correctly, was for that person to rent one of their garbage cans, which sounds kind of Goodfellas to me,
from Rumpke.
from Rumpke.
Well, again, we'll go over those things as times goes by. But bottom line, you know, Rumpke, in my years of being involved here, has been an asset to this community, and they're bound and determined to remain that way. And obviously, they're like any other business, any other organization. You know, they have their problems. But again, please report things immediately, call immediately. If a driver does something wrong, we'll make sure that they pay. For the most part, again, they got less than 10 calls out of 3,400 homes.
It's probably because people are frustrated and they don't call anymore.
Well, they got to call. You know, because you get frustrated don't mean you can quit. You know, it's the same with vandalism or anything else. You know, I've heard that on and on. You know, we're getting lazy about national security here. We're getting tired of it. Well, you can't get tired of it. So you got to keep up every day. The day you get tired and get negligent, things get worse.
But was there a maximum amount of cans or bags that Rumpke will pick up, or that you're supposed to set out on your garbage night? If you put 10 bags out there, is Rumpke still obligated to take all that? Or is there some kind of a stipulation on how many you can put out?
Well, and you know, I'm sure there's a maximum limit. That being said, I've seen most drivers, again, they don't like bags. I don't blame them. A lot of times bags get torn into. Andy, I've seen Rumpke drivers, especially if a resident's out there helping them, take an incredible amount. You know, most of their drivers will go out of their way. Now, that being said, if they come by and you got a pile of garbage from here to the wall, 10 feet tall, they're allowed to keep going.
Yeah, they don't want to fill a truck up on one house and have to
Yeah.
make that drive, you know, fuel prices and
But
everything.
for the most part, I've seen them pick up some tremendous loads
I
over
have
the
to,
years.
just on our street down there.
Yeah, it's
I
the
think it's in the
oversized
code
items that they
it
don't
has to
pick
be in the
up.
Right, you gotta call.
lid.
Oh, yeah, they want them in
Just-
cans.
Yeah.
Wrap 'em.
And generally speaking, if the can lid's open and things are popped up in it, they'll still take it. In a lot of districts, they won't take it unless the lid's shut.
Yeah.
And you can pretty much put out most anything, and they'll take it. I want to repeat that Rumpke number again, though. It's 513-742-2900. And the city number again is 513-733-3725. One of the things that struck me was when they were talking about the logistics of picking up, like Harvest Lane. They can't get a regular truck up there because it bottoms out, so they send a pickup truck up. And the pickup truck picks up the trash, and then it has to go find the trash truck, which is going to 400 homes a day. They do Reading first before they do other districts. So Reading's first on the list. So the driver's constantly moving on the trash truck, so they have to go find it with the pickup truck to empty it into the big truck. Then they've got to go back and pick up the recycling, and then go back and then they got to find the recycling truck, which is also moving down the street. So it's their job, but it's also logistically interesting to see how they do that on those streets and some of those alleys. And he'd say some of the alleys were, as the mayor mentioned, with the where you place the items. If you put your red recycling bin behind your trash can, they may not see it, and that happens a lot. So just make sure it's visible and not covered up with a bunch of boxes and things. Make sure it's clearly visible from the street. But we'll have more information on that at the next meeting.
Mr.
I
Mayor.
got a different question for you, Bo, and I don't know if you got the answer, but we got a lot of COVID money that came in last month. Now we got $924,000. Is there restrictions on that COVID money? And does it have to be spent within the next 2 years, you know?
We know there's less restrictions than when they started, but anyway, we'll go through what they are.
Okay.
You know, if you have anything specific.
Yeah, and 200,000 of that, or just under that, is still to be paid for the computer system.
Yeah,
For payroll and stuff off
Right.
that amount.
Okay.
So, just to let you know.
Right. I knew there's some encumbrance money there, but I wasn't sure how much.
And they
But-
haven't come out with full timelines yet, so Patrick and I get emails on that of the timeline to be spent, so.
Okay,
We're trying to stay up on that as much as we can.
okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Is there a need for a committee or council of the whole?
I've got service report,
Go right ahead. We'll put that in miscellaneous.
okay? Service Department, city crew's been out patching potholes in the streets again. The Vulture's been out collecting branches. City crews painted soccer and football fields. They repaired a water leak on East Crest Drive. They've been out trimming brush near roadways and trees in the right-of-way. The roof at City Hall, again, is leaking, and they had 3 roofing companies called to investigate and give bids. Only 1 bid was received from Deer Park Roofing. Hopefully that'll get worked on pretty soon. City crew's been painting yellow curbing throughout the city. City crew torn out the curbing and repaired the catch basin on Ohio Avenue in Marion. They also repaired signs throughout the city. The backhaul and street sweeper have been out cleaning streets, and they're checking a sinkhole on East Crest Drive. They've been painting railroad crossings and stop bars. And also, today I got the 3 quotes for the valve turner exercise machine. As soon as they get with Patrick and choose a bid, that ordinance, they come back to us. The 3 bids go from 82,000 to 93,000, depending on the freight and everything else. The freight on some of them are a little higher than others, but that's all I have at this time.
And Bob, did Darrell give you a copy of that bid for the roof here? I seem
No,
to remember.
I didn't get a bid on that.
I think it was close to $90,000. So anyway, just another
Total
thing.
replacement.
Yeah, I'll get that. Darrell giving it to me a few days ago. I didn't.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the money we got, that's still a good investment because that roof hasn't been touched in a while. It's been patched many times, but a complete replacement is probably the best thing for it because it's a flat roof. Can't do a whole lot with it.
Question for Dave. When you only have 1 bid, and you sought 3, you can just take that one.
You got 1 bid. You just have to bid it. I mean, that's, anything over $50,000 has to be bid unless you buy it off of the State Department of Administrative Services list. There are some exceptions to that, but not many. But if you only get 1 bid, you only get 1 bid.
Very good. Any other miscellaneous business?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to
Second.
adjourn from Mr. Bronner, second by Mr. Boehner. All in favor?
Aye.
We are finished. Everybody have a good night.